Hi friends, it's Becky, and today I want to share a product review. This is just the Hobbyworker knotting tool. Hobbyworker is the brand that my favorite bead mat comes in, so I thought I would check out their knotting tool. One of the things that I struggle with the most when I'm doing knotting, hand knotting, is making the knot. And so I'm hopeful that this tool will help me make those knots a little bit better. And so, like with my other reviews, I think what I'll do is I'll go ahead and use it for a little while, and then I will come back and let you know how I feel about it and how that works. It looks like you'll usually have like a bead or something there, and then you've got the knot on this little pin, and then in the the Y part, I guess that's where you tighten it. And like if there's a bead up against there, it will do that thing. But then when you tighten it here, you're supposed to push this up. It's supposed to push the knot down up against the bead or whatever you've got against it. So I'm going to try this out in some different projects, probably a project tonight, probably a couple more projects before the end of the week, and then wrap up with how I feel it does as a product and whether I would recommend it, because I like to use things before I recommend them. I do like that it came in this little box with several different colors of knotting silk, so that I've got some silk that I can try this out on. And this silk, all of them come with the their own little needle that is already pre-strung on. So I'll grab some of my pearls. I will do a little project with this, and at the end of the week we'll see how I feel about this Hobbyworker knotting tool, and whether I recommend it. Hi friends, it's Becky, and I am continuing my review of this knotting tool by Hobbyworker by working on a few different projects during my my little thing. And one of the things that I wanted to do was see how it did with some thicker cord. I already knotted a necklace during one of my lives using some fairly thick cord. This is just a little bit thicker than that is though. And so I've gone ahead and pre-strung some beads onto this cord. It's still attached to its spool. This is about 1 millimeter thick waxed cord. You can see it like that. I'll put a link to where I got it from in the description if you are interested in getting some of it. I got a big bundle that came with a bunch of colors, including this glorious hot pink, which of course I'm using with the this fantastically pink beads from the curated bead box with all of these pink things in it. So I was just going to do a really quick, simple knotted bracelet with this. So I've already pre-strung this on here. And I'm just going to move these along because we're just going to be, you know, using one bead at a time on it. And I'm going to just take from the end of this about, let's give myself about maybe 6 inches from the end, and just tie myself an overhand knot over and through. Pull that tight. And now I'm ready to start using my knotting tool right here. So let's do another overhand knot like this. And now with the knotting tool, it's got this little pointy bit. I'm just removing the protector. And then what I want to do is get the loop on this pointy bit and then put the end that I'm going to pull here, and then the bead will be up against it like this. And that's to hold that in place like that. Nope, that's too close. Let's try it again. Now, this is only my second time using this. I did actually do a complete necklace with this tool during one of my Friday night lives. Let's pull that Up against there, a little bit more. Okay, and then you push up from the bottom with your thumb. And I want to be sure I give a good thorough usage of this product before I publish my final review. So yeah, my first project that I knotted a whole necklace, and I used this knotting tool to help. Yep. I think you have to have the knot close to the bead to begin with. I struggled a lot during the first few knots on the first one that I did during my live, and if you wanted to watch that and see what issues I ran into, I will link that in the description below so you can go back and see it, because it is available on my channel for replay. Okay. I'm just pulling it tight against the thing before I even pull it up there, because it seems to work better that way. There's 2 knots. I need a bead. There we go. I saw a little technique. I'm just going to drop this for a minute. I saw a technique that I haven't tried before, where you make your knot, right? And you make it like nice and big, a big loop like that. And then you push your other bead down like this. Keep that nice and tight. And then hold that bead against it while you pull the knot. That actually seemed to do a pretty good job. Let me try that again. This works great if you've pre-strung your beads, I think. You gotta hold on to the loop while you push it down. I think that's how it works best. And then hold the beads together and pull the cord through. Alright, let's try it with the knotting tool again. I'm just saying, you know, there are other ways of doing knotting. Sorry, I am trying to concentrate on what I'm doing. I think I need to hold the beads in my hand. I think it'll work better that way. Through the loop. Nope, that's too far. One of the reasons I'm using this thicker cord is because it's something that I can, you know, get the knot out of if I need to correct something. I'm going to try this again with the silk cord that came with this, because it's a finer cord, and I want to see if I run into the same tension issues with that cord that I have in the past with other silk cords. and knotting, where all of my knots are just completely not consistent, because that's always been a problem of mine with knotting, is that my knots have not been like a consistent tension between my beads. And that's what I was hoping that this would help with. So it seems to not necessarily be a sort of set it and forget it kind of a tool, but more of a, if you're dexterous enough to handle it, it can make holding on to the knot while you tighten it a little easier. Alright, so I'm going to keep working on this, and when this is about bracelet length, give myself maybe an inch for closures, I'm going to come back and I'm just going to do like a little knotted closure that's adjustable at the end of this bracelet. Alright, so this bracelet is long enough to fit around a wrist with a little bit of space here for a knotted closure. It's going to be an adjustable knotted closure. I'm just going to do a single barrel knot with one of the cords running through it the other way. So if you want to see some other ways of doing knotting to have an adjustable closure, I did a video recently for one around gift giving time, and I'll link that in the description below if you wanted to see that. So I'm just gonna, since we're doing knots, I'm gonna do continuation of knots. I have them just kind of parallel to each other, each of my cords, and I'm just gonna hold both of them lightly in my finger here while I bend this back on itself. Actually, I want this to be a little bit closer. We're not going to need that much space between them since it is going to be adjustable. So I'm just going to keep going all the way around both of these, but I want to keep that loose so that I can tuck my other end in to complete that barrel knot. And also, let's do this close to there, but also close to there. Okay. Yes. Sometimes my fingers just are always in the way, which is weird because they're supposed to be the things that, you know, I use to do things with. Anyway, let's get 1, 2, 3, 4 loops. 4 loops sounds good to me. Now, let's go ahead and go through all of those loops leading up to here. And I'm going to try and keep that as a little bit close to that knot as possible. Tighten that up. Okay. And so this knot is going to be the one that is immovable, and then this strand will go through or not to make it adjustable. And so let me go ahead and tie a little teensy knot right up against my barrel knot. And let's use the knotting tool to make sure it is right up against there. Just to keep that from getting undone. And then I've also got a thread burner that I can use on this thread because it is synthetic thread. It's not a natural substance like silk or something. There we go. And that'll help it keep it from unraveling when we do that. So that is my knot there. And now for this one, I'm going to go ahead and open it to the point where it needs to be to fit around the fattest part of my wrist. That's going to be there. Alright, so I'm going to do a little knot around there-ish. Just an overhead knot, overhand knot. Doesn't need to be a huge one. There we go. As long as it can get over the wrist. And I'm giving myself about 1 centimeter of extra room there, just for comfort, so I'm not, struggling to get that over my wrist. And I'll do the same thing on the end of that knot that I did with the other by using my thread burner. Now I can get it on. And I just have the one strand dangling down. And that's okay. It makes it a little bit easier to do it with just one hand, to only have to worry about pulling on one thing at a time. Alright, so that was that project. I will do another project with some much thinner cord, and before I give you my full review. Okay, so my final project, before I wrap things up and give you my thoughts on it, I thought I would use some pearls with kind of smaller holes so that I could use some of the stringing silk that came with this knotting tool. And we could just make another little bracelet just with this, because I've used some, in my previous 2 attempts, I used some thicker cord, some knotting cord that is, thicker. It's not as fine. It's not as slippery, I think, as this silk. So I'm going to see how it does with these. It's a number 4 size, or 0.6 millimeter. And it has a needle, and it's one of these needles that has a collapsible eye. That's that loop there. Let's just get this out of here. I think that's a good idea. Let's get this needle out of here. It's a long, flexible needle, but it's very thin. And then this eye of that needle, it will collapse as it goes through the teeny tiny hole as I string it. So we're going to go ahead and use this and just make a bracelet. I could probably do a long enough, this thread is long enough that I could probably do a necklace with it, but I don't want to spend too much time on it, and I actually have enough pearls that I could do a necklace as well. Maybe I'll just do a necklace. Y'all, I'm gonna do a necklace. That'll be fine. I have a couple of culottes. They're also called clamshells, and that's gonna be the ends of my strand. And I've just got some very tiny little 11/0 seed beads that I'm going to be using along with the culottes to get this strung on here. Now for the pearls that I'm using, this is just some pearls that I've had in my stash for a couple of years now. And if you wanted to see the other colors of silk thread that came with that, there's actually quite a bit of it. So let's get some pearls strung on here. And I'm going to end up working from this end forward. That way we won't have to go too far on it. This already has a little knot, so let's just snip this knot off the end. And I will go ahead and get this end connected to one of the culottes, and then we'll start stringing. I do have backup pearls in case the holes on these are too small, but I was thinking of these, like these peachy ones. They are so cool looking. They've got teeny tiny holes, but that should be big enough for the needle to go through. Should be. If not, we can try it again. But where's my needle? All right. I'm going to take this needle and go through the 11-0 just so I can get the okay. Sometimes it's easier to pick up seed beads if you put them on your mat first. So you see how that eye is bigger than my 11-0? And then I pull it through and now it's collapsed. So it's no longer too big for that. That's how it's going to get through the pearls. Alright, so here on the end, I've got my little seed bead there, and that's going to help the help this stay in there. So I'm just going to do an overhand knot and then another overhand knot. That way when I get the culotte on there, and I'm going to go through from this end. Okay, yes, because I want the Pac-Man to eat the knot that I just made. Here we go. So now I've got this knot here. I can go ahead and close up this culotte and then snip off the end of this thread. And now that's pretty secure on there. I'm going to do just a little knot right up against there. And let me grab the knotting tool. Take off my little point protector. Oh yeah, that was much easier to get that right up against there with this part is fiddly because I'm not used to doing this. Alright, well, that's going to need to be good enough for me. But that did make a very small knot. Alright, let's try some of these beads, or some of these pearls, and see if this thread is going to be the right size for the pearls. And it looks like they are. That's fantastic. Alright, so I may need to pre-thread it and then do this, but at least for now, for the first couple of these that I'm going to do on camera with you. There we go. There is a lot of space there between this pearl and that knot. Let's try it with another one. See, look at all that space. Actually, let me try it with the tweezers, because that's a different knotting option, is using tweezers to hold the so you make your little loops. Yeah, it's nice and wide still. I'm going to go through the loop and just hold my tweezers right there at the base. Whoop. That didn't work because it slipped right out, and so I've got another loose knot there. Let's try again. All right. Another one of these. Let's try the tweezers one more time, and then we'll try this one more time and do a little comparison with them. You know, I think I have enough thread here that if I figure out how to do it with this tiny thread a little bit better, I might be able to get it working well. Alright, so I've got my knot. I'm going through my loop, holding on to my knot here at the very bottom, and then pushing with my thumb, which is basically the same action this does. And that is a much better knot. Do you see how that's a nice tight knot on either side? There's not a lot of room for the pearl to move around, unlike these other two, which this one was done with the knotting tool, this one was done with the tweezers, this one was done with the tweezers and being a little more careful. So that may be what I need to do. Let's just be a little more careful. Alright, let me try another one with the knotting tool and see if, now that I've got more beads on here, it might not work better for me. But again, this knotting tool does have a little bit of a learning curve. Okay, so right up against there. I just want the end to go through my hole. There we go. Now, see, that helps to pull it. That gets it up in position. And now this is supposed to push it against the bead. The question is, does it? And that one is better than the first one. Much better. It's closer to this one. Probably just a little more wiggle room than that one. Alright, well, let me see. Let me finish up and string some more pearls until I have a nice little necklace. And I will come back and give you my final thoughts. So I'm going to try this out some more. I'm going to see if I can get an entire necklace's worth of pearls on here. And when I do, I'll come back and wrap this up. So I have knotted on most of these pearls. I'm almost finished with my necklace length strand. I have 2 more left to do, and I wanted to do them with y'all so you could see how much more comfortable I am. It was really, really awkward at the front of this because it's such a new tool to me. But doing all of these helped me become more familiar with it and more comfortable with it so that I could do all of that. And I made a big loop and then pulled my beads through the loop because that's That's going to get me that overhand knot. And instead of having the big loop that I'm going to put my knotting tool on, or put on my knotting tool, I'm making it a little bit smaller, keeping it on my finger though, so it doesn't go all the way through, and then just putting it right on there. So now that I've got that, something that I did figure out while I was doing it is that I sort of need to keep my fingernail or the side of my finger right here next to this guide, and this is the important part, go slow. If I go fast, it pops off, and then there's still a lot of space between the knot and that pearl. But I've got tension, I'm pulling on the thread downward while I'm pushing with my finger this way. So I've got this, I'm holding the thread there, and then pushing up very slowly just to get that knot pressed up against that pearl. And there you can see it works a lot better. And I think I actually did 2 knots instead of 1. So as you can see, while there may be a lot of things that this tool will help with, it won't help when you do silly little mistakes like that by making 2 knots in a row. I did that one earlier. But for the most part, as you can see, like, I have been able to make some pretty consistent knots, you know, when you're not looking at that double knot mistake for most of these pearls. And that's something, the consistency was something that I was lacking with my previous knot making methods. So for me at least, it feels like this might have been worth it. It wasn't a super expensive tool. I will have to check on that price, but I will list the price in the description below, so you can check it out yourself and decide if it's going to be worth it for you. So I just did across there, made a big loop. No, yes, okay. I was like, wait a minute, am I doing another double knot? No, I did. I put the pearl in the way. Okay, so I've got my pearl in place. I've got my big old loop. Let's make it into a little bit smaller of a loop, but still a loop. And then put that loop onto my pointy bit. Right here, what I'm doing is I'm just pulling on the thread, and that pulls the rest of these beads up against here. And I'm just picking up the slack a little bit on that so that it's not pulling from the weight of the pearls on that end. And then we put that up through there. And again, I've got it like looped around my finger so that I can pull pretty hard. I'm going to have my finger up here, up against the little fork, and then go real slow while I'm pushing up with my thumb on the other part. And that gets me a nice little knot right there. All right, one more, and then we can finish this necklace off, and I will talk about how I feel about this tool. I did 42 pearls for this, and these are fairly large-ish pearls. Let me see. They're about 8.5 millimeters in size, these pearls. Yep, 8 to 8.5 millimeters. So I used 42 of them for this strand. This little guy right there. And there are other companies that sell knotting tools. This Hobbyworker is just the brand that I get my bead boards from, and so I thought I'd try theirs. I believe Beading has one, the Beadsmith, and a few others. So you may want to try it, but you may have a different brand that you want to support instead, which is totally fine. All right, so that's my last pearl. Now I need to get my other culotte on the other end. This is going to be the fun part. So I'm going to go through my culotte with, I still have my little bending needle on this length of silk cord. I probably have enough leftover cord to make a bracelet as well. So I'm glad that I started on this end so that I can still have the needle on the working end for this one. Okay, so let's grab another 11/0. I've got this little teeny 11/0 here, and I'm just going to go through it with the needle. Pull it down there, and then go through it again. Push it, if I can, down into the jaw of the, let's go ahead and use these pliers to push that down there a little bit. Not pliers, tweezers. I'm just pushing the seed bead into the jaw of the thing right there. Alright, maybe not as far in as all that. I'm going to want to make a little knot underneath there. Okay. So now let's go around. Hold on. I'm going to use my needle to direct my thread underneath and to the side of the strand, but underneath the seed bead. Of course it's popping up above there now. This is fiddly, but I just need for there to be a little loop of thread that is going underneath the seed bead. That is not working that way. Okay, there we go. There's the seed bead. This is the part that I didn't really think through. There has to be a way to tie this off without there being like a mile of cord between the last pearl and this. And there may be an easier way to do this. There really might. Might be enough of a knot. let's close that up and snip this off. And I have some jump rings and a lobster clasp for making a closure on here. So let me grab a pair of pliers and a second pair of pliers so I can open and close some jump rings. This jump ring is closed and I'm going to keep it that way, but I'm going to open this smaller jump ring. This is a 6mm, this is a 5mm, and I'm just going to open this and put it through the loops of the clamshell, and then add that jump ring there. And I could probably add like some curb chain or something instead of this loop if I wanted it to be like size extendable, so that you could have an extender chain along the back of this necklace. But I'm just going to go ahead and go with a loop and a lobster clasp. Oh, check the lobster clasp, Becky. Yep, it works great. I have in the past attached lobster clasps and then found out that they didn't work, so I always test first before I go through. And usually, like, if it doesn't work, it'll be because, like, I don't know, the spring is weird or something. I don't know if there's a spring. Yeah, let's go through the loops on that one. The lobster clasp. Close that up. Yay, and now I have a necklace, a pearl necklace that I made with some of my pearls from my bead stash. I made a bracelet with some cord earlier in this video, and I actually don't have it handy right now, but here's the one that I made during my live, and I will put a link to that live in the description below so you could watch the replay. But with this one I did some, again, thicker cord, and I did some knotting, and I used this tool for most of these knots. So between the 3 projects that I did, I feel like with me, I'm not that great at being consistent with knots, even with using other methods like a beading awl or tweezers. I haven't been that great at being consistent. So getting used to the tool, doing more of it, it has paid off actually. I think this is probably some of the best on silk cord knotting that I've done, even with my little mistakes. So I'm pretty happy about that. I think I'm gonna probably do more knotting stuff, but overall, I'm happy that I purchased this, and because it has actually helped me, it was worth it to me to go ahead and get that. So I will put a link to this in the description below. Like I said, other manufacturers and distributors make tools like this too, which are very similar. I couldn't see any discernible differences between them. So if you have another brand that you would like to purchase from, go ahead, do that. But I have actually gotten a lot of use out of this so far, just with those 3 projects. And I think as long as I take the time to refamiliarize myself with it, or just spend more time doing stuff with it, then I'll just get better at it and be able to make some more things. So anyway, that is my review of the Hobbyworker knotting tool. Until next time, happy beading.